What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist Season 6, Episode 13, Robert Vesco. This really felt like kind of taking a break from some of the intensity after how the first half of the season ended. Because, yeah, I mean, it really, I don't know, it kind of felt a little bit pointless, and they even pointed out at the end of this episode, like, wrestler, just like, so what was the point of all of this? And yeah, I definitely felt that by the end of it, because it was pretty interesting setup, kind of a treasure hunt. It's Reddington's former mentor, who everybody thought was dead, who apparently faked his death, and then they were looking for the treasure. And it's a great setup. But then it all just sort of goes nowhere, and at the end, his mentor betrays him again, takes all the gold, and now what was the point of all of this? Like, I don't know. It does seem a little odd, because I felt like every single one of these episodes, every move that they were going to make from here on out was going to be towards stopping this conspiracy that, McMahon and the president are, trying to enact in this country. So it seems a little weird that we just have a random treasure seeking episode that doesn't really lead to anything by the end of it. And then Reddington gets beat by his mentor. I don't know. It just felt a little weird that happened, but I don't know. Maybe there will be a point to it. Maybe this was just kind of a filler, just to sort of, introduce his mentor so we know who he is, and maybe he'll come back later and be important somehow. But we didn't really want to complete his story now, type of thing. I don't know. I had fun through it, but because of how much the intensity has been built and how great this story has been, the plot moving forward, I'm really interested to see, one, the team working again with Reddington, having figured out about the secret plot. Two, the team working under McMahon as she's trying to essentially stop them from stopping her plot, whatever it is. And three, just to have this new dynamic of Reddington and Liz working together while there's this possibility that they know more than the others letting on, type of thing. I don't know. I like all of these plot points, and they didn't really tackle any of it in this episode. It just all sort of got swept away, and then we focused on this treasure hunt. That's kind of it. So I wasn't disappointed, but I was definitely a little put off by the fact that we kind of took a break and focused on something a bit more fun. The not fun side of this episode, though, is, of course, everything going on with Samar. I guess this was technically her final episode, maybe? I don't know if she's still going to feature or not, but it definitely felt like this was her last episode, at least for a while. And all the stuff she's going through right now, some of it was good, some of it was bad. The bad stuff was mainly the kind of cringy stuff that Aram was going through, because, he talks to Levi, and he tells him, congratulations on, the baby, to which Aram is like, oh, cool. But he tells the guy the truth anyway, which is what Samar didn't want. She didn't want to tell them the truth about what's going on with her, the brain damage. I don't know why that is, but she lied and said she was pregnant, and that's her reason for stepping out of the Mossad. So Aram tells them the truth anyway, which then he gets told the lie that Levi was told. And so then when he tries to, bring the champagne and everything, like, we're going to have so much fun as a family, that was kind of cringy, because I'm just like, God, just stop him before he goes too far. But she doesn't. She lets him talk, digs a deeper hole for himself. And it felt a little sitcom-y, like that moment where one person is saying something and we know the truth. We know that she's lying about being pregnant, but the other person is just unaware, and so is constantly talking and making it more and more sad whenever the truth gets revealed. And for some reason this person doesn't stop them at any point and say, no, Rom, you don't understand, I'm not pregnant. I lied about that. And also on top of that, the fact that clearly he found out that she was pregnant through Levi. Not once does she question and say, did you talk to him, and ask him what was said. She didn't even come to that conclusion. She was just like, no, look, I can't be a mother, and that's what you want, so I can't do this. And then, of course, it ends on a happier note, because Ram gives her the ring back and says, no, I want you to get better, and I want you to promise me that once you do, then we'll be back together again. So, kind of a sweet note. that it leaves off on. But yeah, that one scene in particular, it was kind of, this is not a sitcom show. It has funny moments, but it's not a sitcom, and that felt like a sitcom. So I was a little frustrated with it, but overall, I don't know what to expect with Samar. I don't know what's going on with her story. I don't know what they plan to do with it for the future. Just kind of one of the side stories right now. It is emotional at times, and I do like Amar and Saram as a couple. I got that backwards? Did Samar and Aram? Have I been saying it backwards this whole time? I really hope not, but I'm a little tired, so it's a possibility. Now I'm embarrassed. Now I feel like I'm a part of a sitcom, and everybody's the 3 or 4 people watching this video are like cringing as they're listening to me say the names backwards this whole time. But yeah, no, I do like them as a couple. So if they do break them up, I'll be a little upset. And honestly, I was at first whenever she like gave him the ring. She's like, "I'm done." She's like, "No, no, no. This is one of the best couples you produced in this show. I don't know how, but it is. So you can't break this up." And then at the end, whenever he gives it back, I'm like, okay. So she's taking a break. She's not going to be on the show, but they're still technically a thing. And I do hope that they can work it out and she can come back. And even if she's not a part of the team, even if she has to stop being an agent, I still just want her to be able to come back and be a part of his life, because it's very clear that's what Aram wants, and it's something that means a lot to him. So, yeah, that's about it for this episode, though. So on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 14, the Osterman Umbrella Company. I was gonna make an Umbrella Academy joke, but after the end of this episode, I don't feel like making any jokes. That was rough. That was a rough one. Yeah, so finally kind of get a conclusion to what has been a side story up until this point. The whole thing with Samar and Aram, and her, losing her brain capabilities. And again, I was very curious after she didn't tell Cooper about what was going on. I was like, why would she hide that? Well, we find out in this episode. The whole thing, it makes sense why she would keep it a secret, but on the other hand, like, I'm also thinking it doesn't make sense from Mossad's point of view. You're going to kill off one of your best operatives just because she might forget how to keep a secret later on. But at the same time, I'm like, but she'll also probably forget those secrets. So, what? Like, I don't really get that logic. It's like, oh, she'll forget how to keep a secret, while somehow keeping the memories of all the secrets that she has, clearly. And maybe that's just, that's how the Mossad is run. They see that as a possible weakness. But it's still odd to me that that first sign of weakness is like, okay, well, time to kill her. And the fact that Levi, too, was so willing to go along with it kind of throws me off a little bit, because it seemed like he did genuinely care for her. And even, Red in this episode when he's talking to him, like that scene where he's like, I just can't understand why you would basically give that chance for Ram to essentially give her up. And now he's going to blame himself for them never going to be able to be together. And yeah, I mean, he really ended up being just a big dick in the end. So yeah, I guess it just shows how loyal he is. And I did like that conversation that Reddington had with him, basically talking about how he hates, I think he called it the business, how it really changes even good people. And he even said Samar would do the same thing. He's like, exactly. It would change even the best of us. So yeah, but everything in that ending is just exactly as heartbreaking as they wanted it to be. And it really, really hurt. At first I thought we were losing both Aram and Samar, but the more I thought about it, before Reddington showed up, the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, you can't take both of them out of the show. You can take Samar out of the show, and they can probably find another agent to come in and replace her. And honestly, there's sometimes they don't even need her, because you've got Keen and Wrestler who make a good team. Samar was like a good other agent to have, especially if Elizabeth was off doing something with Reddington. Samar was another good agent on their roster. So they could still function as a unit without the extra agent. But of course, it's still, you're losing a friend, basically. You're never going to see her again. So yeah, it already hurt. But losing Aram, I feel like really would have taken the team apart because he does something that none of them can do. You know, he has the technological capabilities to really solve a lot of their problems from behind the screen. So yeah, I kind of, the more I thought about it before Reddington showed up, I'm like, God, they're probably gonna keep him around, right? Samar's gonna leave without him, and then sure enough, when Reddington shows up without Samar, yep, and all that whole final scene from him basically freaking out on Reddington, like, where is she? We had a plan, all of this stuff, to him on the call, which, my God, it's just the guy. I think his name is Amir, the guy that plays Aram. Um, oh man, what an actor! Just that whole scene broke my heart. Especially when his voice started to break. That's really what got me. Like, I was already very emotional. I'm just like, God, this is sad. And then his voice breaks, and it just, oh, I felt tears welling up. It was rough. And then, of course, ultimately culminating into what is going to be a very interesting dynamic now, because Aram has been kind of, he's not a fanboy of Reddington. He kind of was at one point. He's like, oh, it's Reddington. He's this big bad man. At some point, though, it became respect, basically. Like, he really respects Reddington, and even though Reddington's a bad guy, he still respects what he does, and he thinks deep down he's good, and he's trying to help them. Well, in this case, because Reddington helped to get Samar away from him, now it's going to be interesting to see how he treats Reddington. He was typically the one when the rest of the team was like, who cares, whenever Reddington was dealing with stuff. He was the one that's like, no, we have to help him. It's our job to help him out, right? Like, he's helped us so much, why shouldn't we help him? So now that I don't know what to expect. I know he's going to be cold to Reddington for a bit, but is there going to come a point where he can help, but he's not going to because he has this grudge against him now? I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic. And it's kind of funny because a few episodes ago, at the end of the second episode, or the mid-season finale, it really felt like it was kind of a coming together for the team, because for so long it kind of did feel like it was sort of splitting apart, because Liz was so focused on finding out who Reddington was before, and the team was kind of stuck in the middle. They weren't really helping her or him. They were kind of doing a bit of both, but there was definitely a disconnect there between Liz and Red. And then in that final episode, when they finally had a common enemy, this, the group that's committing the conspiracy against America, they kind of came together, and it felt like the team was finally back together again, and they weren't going to split anymore. And now all of a sudden, here we are a few episodes later, and now it feels like there's a split developing again, where Aram's probably not going to forgive Reddington anytime soon for what he did. So is he going to be able to work with him on whatever plan they're going to come up with to stop this conspiracy? I don't know. But it's definitely going to throw an interesting wrench into the plan, I think. The one thing I will say as far as that's concerned, though, I am a little disappointed that we're 2 episodes past it and we still haven't gone back to what's going. Like, clearly this one mattered because it was Samar that was targeted. But I feel like we've kind of just ditched the whole plot line of there's a conspiracy to attack America from within somehow, and the president's involved, and his Department of Justice secretary, whatever she is, she's involved too, and she's kind of spearheading this thing. That kind of felt like what was going to be the main focus. I mean, you think about the first half of the season, it was all building up to Reddington's plan, like what he was trying to do to make sure he could get out of this situation and also find out about the conspiracy too. So all of it sort of connected together, and they even, went back and showed each step in the plan. This right now feels like we're just kind of, okay, we're here, he's following this treasure, he's found his former mentor, and now we're here, and Samar's being targeted because she's got the vascular dementia, and the Mossad are trying to take her down. And both of those stories, this one a little bit more filler, but this one obviously very important, but it doesn't really tie in, at least right now, it doesn't feel like it ties into the overarching plot of the second half of the season, which I figured would be taking down the conspiracy. So it's a little disappointing for me. But then again, I mean, if they focus on it in this next episode, then I'll be back on board. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, this was still a good episode. It was still very emotional, very heartrending. Just, I do kind of wish that we could get back to, okay, this is the story that we were promised in the second half of the season, and we're not getting any of it right now. So can we get some of that again, please? But yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. So on to the final of these three. See you there. And now episode 15, Olivia Olson. Finally, we're back to the overarching plot for this season. And yeah, a very interesting way to bring it all together. This woman who apparently brings crime people together. Basically brokers deals and stuff between different people to sort of help certain people. It was very confusing the way it was presented, but I think I understand it. I'm just not very good at articulating exactly how it works. But essentially, like, the best way I can explain it is that cop at the beginning gives like a good basic explanation because he was helping the drug cartels, and she basically convinced him to start helping another corporation instead of the drug cartels and get rid of them. So essentially getting rid of a competitor for this company that wanted them out of the way. That's the only way I can make sense of it in my mind. But essentially, she had worked with McMahon in the past, and so Red's trying to help the team get that information. And it's very interesting seeing the team kind of be on Reddington's level for a little bit. They're not like out there committing crimes, but they are having to lie. They're having to sort of do things without giving the whole truth like Reddington normally does. And so to see Cooper at the end, Cooper's really stepped up in this past season at least. Like, he was always good, but something about this season has turned him into an amazing character, and I love having him in charge. Between that one line that he gave McMahon at the end of the mid-season finale, and now at the end of this episode, he's just so casually like, oh yes, I made copies of all the files, and she gave all of them to her staff except for one, and then they have the one file that she apparently didn't want anybody to see. And so they're assuming that has something to do with whatever big conspiracy is going on behind the scenes. So yeah, I mean, it's very interestingly set up. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know exactly what information they're going to get from it. They did give like a quick explanation, but I've already kind of forgotten what exactly they found out from it. But essentially it's another piece in the puzzle, and they're going to start piecing it all together to find out what the plan is and hopefully eventually stop it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that all come to conclusion. On top of that, the other couple of side stories in this one, you have Aram. He's dealing with losing Samar. He's dealing with his hatred of Reddington for what happened. It was a little interesting to see him go off the deep end. I mean, I feel bad for him, but at the same time, I also think he's a little dumb in this episode. But I get it. He is really heartbroken after everything that happened. So I understand why he's acting this way. But at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking, dude, you really think it's a good idea to go against Reddington? Like, you already punched him in the face and managed to get away with it. I don't think stealing his money and using that to blackmail him is going to turn out okay. Now, thankfully, Reddington, I think, gets it. Like, he understands why he's acting this way. And he understands, like, the pains of the heart. So he's not going to hit back at him for everything he did, although he does, charge him interest for the money, which that was a great moment where he's like, yes, it's a 25% interest. And then he does all the math for him. And he's like, wait, so what if I solve the riddle? Oh, I'll knock it down, $12 off of, like, I think it was like $1,600 interest. So yeah, some good moments there, and also a nice moment to see Reddington show some care for Aram and show some understanding, really, of what he's going through. But yeah, ultimately, in the end, Aram, of course, comes back to the team. Because like I said in the last episode, I could see Samar leaving because, she is just, as far as the team is concerned, as far as what they bring to the team, Samar is an agent, so they could always go find another agent. But for Aram, what he does it's going to be difficult to really go get somebody else to fill that void and bring in the same level of expertise that he does, as well as fit into the team too. So I don't know. I felt like if they got rid of both of them at once, it would really be a detriment to what is this overarching season and what they're trying to do. It would be like, oh crap, now we got to go find another tech guy, basically. So yeah, that was all fairly interesting. The other side of it is we're also seeing Liz and Wrestler kind of butt heads a little bit about Reddington and about the fact that he's not who he says he is. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know what Wrestler's doing at the end of this episode. I don't know exactly what he's hoping to find by looking into Katerina Rostova's history. But clearly he's not happy with just sitting around going, oh, okay, well, I guess we just won't look into his past anymore. I guess we won't find out who he is. And I don't know, I find that kind of interesting just because I wonder what's going through his head about it. You know, because before, he didn't really like working for Reddington because, or even working with him, because he's a criminal. And he doesn't like to work with a criminal on stuff, even if the guy's helping them solve all these cases and put these evil people behind the bars. He doesn't like working with a criminal because it kind of goes against his moral code. But now he's found out that not only is a criminal, he's a liar. So now it's kind of pushed him even further down that path of I don't want to trust him and I don't want to work with him. Which I find very interesting because I'd already mentioned earlier this season how after what he did at the end of last season, it felt like he had kind of been pushed back to the side of I don't want to trust Reddington, I don't want to work with him, questioning everything he does, but still doing the job because it's his job. So to see that they took that and went even further with it, to where now he doesn't trust him, he doesn't like working with a criminal, and he doesn't like working with a guy who's lying about who he is, it all is kind of culminating to the point where I do wonder if Wrestler at some point is just going to snap and say enough is enough. And I do really worry about him too because, I mean, like Liz has said, a lot of people died trying to figure out who Reddington really is. And there were a lot of people that were killed in the process. So now that Wrestler knows that he's not who he says he is, and I think he's going to try to find out who he actually is, I do worry that he's going to end up getting caught in the crossfire as well. And I would hate that because, I mean, Wrestler's been one of my favorite characters for all of these seasons. Like, he's really come leaps and bounds, and he's not just the same one note, like, oh, I'm all about truth and justice character that he was. Like, he's grown as a character. He's had his slip-ups. He's played around in the gray area a bit, but he's still deep down, he's still a good guy, and he still wants to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So to see him start to go down this path of he's going to look into what's going on with Reddington, it does worry me for what's going to happen to him. Is he going to make it out of that alive? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's another good episode. It's getting me back into the feeling of, okay, here we go again, because we did take a little bit of a break with a bit of a funnier episode and then a bit of a more emotional, personal episode. And now we're back to the plot is returned, and we're looking into what this conspiracy is to attack the country. So I'm excited. So anyways, with that being said, that's it for these 3 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future Blacklist reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.